It's episode 97 of The Next Best Bet. I'm Jake Higgins with Brett Levy. As always, we have some college basketball, college football, and two NFL games because of some reshuffling in the NFL this week. Before we get into that, let's talk about hindsight with Higgins. Brett, not a great week for us. I escaped with just 2 wins of my 7 picks, just a little better than you did.
Yeah, you did a little bit better than me, I guess. Thank God for the Buffalo Bills getting me in that win column there. Really, thank God for the Chargers. Just fade the Chargers all year, Higgins.
Yeah, Coastal Carolina staying undefeated on the spread so far, so I might ride that in next week. We'll see what I pick for episode 98. Going into our Beginners Boulevard, though, we'll have to see what games we have on Saturday because there's been a lot of COVID cancellations, there's been a lot of reshuffling and rescheduled, and that kind of brings us up with the added game, a game that is not part of the regular Las Vegas rotation, but is rescheduled or added in as a doubleheader, and we've seen this a few times already.
Yeah, we've seen the Pac-12 last week. Games, were canceled because opponents had COVID issues, and then the teams that were left over played each other. So, the added game, something to be aware of, and keep your eye up on this year in college football, especially Higgins.
Yeah, and we've seen some reshuffling with locations, times, dates of college basketball already. So, gonna have to keep an eye on all this. It's kind of why you and I always like to wait until the day of the event to place these games because of the uncertainty that you and I have seen in these. Although you seem to get some cancellations and voids still in there every once in a while.
I still find a way to get the day of cancellations in there.
Well, let's talk about some college basketball. We got some interesting games going on Monday night. Starting off with the St. John's versus Boston College game, Brett. And St. John's is a slight favorite at 1.5 points, but I think Boston College is going to get this win because they've had some more tried and true competition. They lost to Villanova, but it was less than 10 points. It was a 9 point game. Then they got a win against Rhode Island, whereas you look at who St. John's has played, they've played St. Peter's and LaSalle. So while they're 2-0 and Boston College is 1-1, I like the strength of schedule that I've seen from Boston College so far. So in this toss-up game that it's even on the money line at minus 108 aside, I'm going to take Boston College.
All right, fair enough. I have no idea in that game, Higgins. So I think it's a toss up as well. But if you're gonna watch, you might as well have some action on it. It's part of a great slate, to be quite honest.
Yeah, it's at a neutral site too. It's part of the Bubbleville series that's going on. This is taking place in Connecticut. So although it's not necessarily a home game for Boston College, and there's not really fans that are able to go to these events, Connecticut is still a shorter travel for Boston College, so you'd have to imagine they seem a little more at home there than, say, St. John's. But I mean, it's pretty much 50-50 in the middle for them.
Yeah, I I guess it's a little bit closer to Boston. I'm not really sure. We'd have to calculate it. It's gonna be close. It's gonna be close there in Connecticut. But I'm gonna be on a different game tomorrow, Higgins. Stanford, Alabama is a big one in my book. Javon Quinterly, the big transfer for Alabama, getting in their rotation this year. Herb Jones is still there, a good player for Bama. John Perry as well. Stanford, up and coming team, Zaire Williams, the true freshman, headlines their roster, Higgins. And in this one, I'm taking Stanford in the points plus 1.5. I think that's where the value is in this game because I think this one's a toss up as well. So I'll take the team getting a point and a half here.
Now, Alabama has played one game against Jacksonville State. Stanford's played against no one so far this year, so I'm trying to stay away from some of those games that have a little bit of that mystery. But how do you feel about some of those games where we have some opponents that may have one, two, maybe even 3 games, depending on how far they went this weekend, and then some teams that haven't played yet?
Honestly, if their competition's Jacksonville State at this point, Higgins, it's probably an advantage for Stanford to have not played because there's no film. So, Stanford's seen some of Bama's sets. They've seen how, Quinterly is going to be part of. He's their lead guard now. Kira Lewis was just drafted out of Alabama in the NBA draft. I guess it was only like a week ago, probably, maybe like 2 weeks ago. But he was drafted, and they have a new lead guard, Higgins. So seeing that on film, seeing the plays they run for him, what hand he likes to go to, probably an advantage for Stanford because they haven't seen Zaire Williams on film yet, at this level at least, or in
That's
that offense.
that's a very fair point. And just looking at the stats from that Alabama, Quinterly led the team in assists, but he only had 3 assists. So what does that say about the ball movement that Alabama has going on right now? Might tip their hand a little bit. Who knows? But I'm actually going to be on a different team from Alabama, Brett. I'm going to be on this Auburn versus UCF game. Now, as soon as I said I try to stay away from those games that have someone that hasn't played a game yet, I'm on a game that has a team that hasn't played a game yet. UCF has not tipped off yet against anybody. Auburn is 1-1 on the season after they lost to Gonzaga, but they played well against St. Joe's. So I'm going to take Auburn here, considering that Bruce Pearl's team did look pretty good. I did watch some of that St. Joe's game. I did not watch the Gonzaga game that Auburn played the next day after that. But Gonzaga's the top team in the nation. I mean, it's a hard task to take on them, especially early in the season. Auburn, they scored over 90 points in both. Or sorry, Auburn scored 90 points in their first game, got 90 scored on them in their second game by Gonzaga. So defense could be a little worrisome, but I think Auburn's going to get it done against UCF. So I'm taking Auburn on the spread at plus 1.5.
Yeah, I mean, Auburn. I don't know. It's a tough spot. We'll have to see how Auburn rebounds after that loss, but I agree with you. Gonzaga's no one expected them to win that game anyway, so no harm, no foul there, Higgins.
Absolutely. I mean, Gonzaga's Gonzaga.
Right, they're the top team this year, I think. Them, Baylor, and honestly Nova, but Nova looked shaky in that Bot Tech loss, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that was a surprise the way Villanova played in that game. I watched that, and maybe it's because they didn't have a lot of notice of playing Virginia Tech, so the preparation wasn't quite there. But not the outcome you expected in that.
No, it was a. Hopefully, I expect them to react pretty well moving forward. I think they'll be a strong team. They're one of the better teams in college basketball this year, and they're really well coached. So, they're veteran. They're young talent. They're a machine, Villanova, right now.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Let's move on though. Out west a little bit. You're eyeing this Pacific Nevada game.
Yeah, Higgins, I'm looking at Pacific Nevada. I'm looking at Wyoming, Texas Southern. Those are some small games I'm looking at. I just think the spreads are a little too small because the opponents of Wyoming and Nevada have played pretty well. But I think Wyoming and Nevada have outperformed their own expectations. And I think that's being overlooked here. I think people are like, oh, Texas Southern, played Oklahoma State pretty tough on the road. They lost a tough game in their first game as well. So they're probably going to play Wyoming tough. Well, it's tough to go to Laramie. That's at altitude. No one. You get up to play Oklahoma State personally, Higgins. I think that's a fact. Like when you're Texas Southern, that's a big game for you. To go to Wyoming, that's a much smaller game for you. It's not the same hype train.
It's a bit colder.
Yeah, and I think the same thing applies for Pacific. Like you get up for your season opener, now you got to go play Nevada. It's just not the same. And Nevada's a program that over the last few years has been there, done that. Steve Alford's won everywhere he's been. So I expect the winning to continue at Nevada, even in what's expected to be slightly a down year. But hey, they're 2-0 and they already beat Nebraska, Higgins. So why not go out there and beat Pacific by two possessions? That's all we need, two possessions.
So you're going to take the spread with each of these?
I am. I'm going to be on Nevada -4.5, Wyoming -5.5. Take the spread with both of them. I think the spread's a little too small.
Alrighty, alrighty. I got two other picks as well. Eastern Kentucky Xavier. I'm gonna be on Eastern Kentucky plus 15 here because I think that's just a little too big of a spread. Eastern Kentucky 2-0. They have two decent wins, uh, each by 10 points or more. And then Xavier, they are 3-0, but their wins were a lot closer. So I think that that trend's going to continue. Xavier's probably still going to get the win, but I don't expect it to be by 15 points. I think that spread's just too large, so I'm going to take the underdog in that one. And then the other spread that I'm going to be on is Loyola Marymount versus Minnesota. Now, Brett, we've seen this on a few of the schedules of other teams. Before the podcast, you mentioned it with Nevada's schedule is very similar to this, where it's back-to-back games against the same team. Well, Loyola Marymount in Minnesota, they're playing the second of a doubleheader. The first game was on Saturday. The second game is going to be on Monday night. And Minnesota beat Loyola Marymount by 15 points in the first game. There was not a spread for the first game. So the spread comes out now, 14.5. I think they're expecting a pretty similar game, similar spread because 15-point win, 14.5-point spread. Well, I expect Minnesota, the bigger program, the bigger name, bigger conference, to make the proper adjustments against the team that they had just seen, and they'll be able to stop some things that worked for Loyola Marymount. They'll be able to expand on some things that worked for them, and maybe they win by 20 this time. So I'm going to take Minnesota minus 14.5 in that one.
I'm going to be honest, Higgins. I can't bet against LMU because they have my favorite player in college basketball. And I'd also be lying if I said I knew his name, but he's got the best hair. He wears 34. They were rocking those baby blues, Higgins. He looked fantastic on the court. He was draining threes. He's my favorite.
One thing's for sure, if he went to a Minnesota high school, he would have made the best hair squad that they do in Minnesota for high school hockey.
Yeah, definitely, for sure.
Would have definitely made that all hair squad, no doubt about that. But yeah, so those are our picks for college basketball right there, and there's plenty of other games going on Monday night, and that's the way that college basketball is going to be for a while now, with 20 or more games basically every single night. We had to cut down quite a few. There's some other ranked ones. North Carolina plays on Monday night, Brett. There's going to be some good games as well, but these are the 7 games that you and I decided to pick.
Yeah, these are the games we're on, but I'm gonna be tuning in starting at noon with Texas Davidson for sure. So, like you said, lots of basketball to choose from, Higgins.
And then let's take a look back at some of the games that happened on Sunday in the NFL. Let's go into Moneyline Magic now. The 49ers and the Rams played a great divisional matchup in the NFC West, and San Fran held the lead for the majority of it. I mean, the Rams scored first, but the 49ers took the lead quickly in the first quarter, and then they held it all the way until entering the fourth quarter, and then within the first minute of the fourth quarter, the Rams took the lead when Cam Akers punched in a rushing touchdown from the goal line to make it 20-17.
Yeah, I mean, this game was going back and forth here, Higgins, and it just set up for a great ending.
Yeah, the Rams led for the next 11 minutes, and then San Fran put together a drive to go tie it up with a 44-yard field goal by Robbie Gould. And the Rams get the ball back. There's about 3 minutes left in the game. Can go potentially win it or set up for an overtime push. But the Rams stall out. 5 plays, forced to punt, touchback. The 49ers get the ball on their own 20-yard line. and put together an 11-play drive in 2 minutes and 10 seconds. That's pretty impressive in itself. Went 56 yards to set up for a 47-yard field goal to win the game. But before the kick goes off, before the snap, Jalen Ramsey jumps off sides, moves it 5 yards closer, makes it a little bit easier for Robbie Gould, and he sneaks it in for a 42-yard game winner as the time expires. Man, we have seen quite a few walk-off field goals this year, it seems, Brett.
Yeah, I mean that's a huge win for the Niners, a division win. They're getting healthy. I think Richard Sherman, this was his first game back since like week
It,
1 or 2. Higgins,
it was
so,
his first game back, Mostert's first game back. They got a lot of help back this week, yeah.
right? So, maybe that's what it needs. Maybe we were calling them dead too early. Bosa's out for the year. They've lost a lot of pass rushers, so maybe once they get healthy, Higgins, the 49ers will be just as competitive as they were a year ago.
Well, what's really helped San Fran, I think, is how competitive that NFC West has been between everyone else. So no one's been able to just run away with it and build a multi-game lead in that division. I mean, you have the Seahawks and the Rams who are tied atop, and then Arizona at 6-5. But San Fran with this win puts them just 2 games back now, so they're still right in this potentially to win the division again.
Well, there you go. But your New York Giants, first place in the NFC East.
Yes, a big win for the Giants. Hopefully Daniel Jones is okay. We'll see how that injury to his hamstring turns out, but new life for the Giants as they are sitting atop the division because they have the tiebreaker over Washington as well.
No, it's just because they're the best team, Higgins. They're the best.
Well, today's episode is brought to you by Naked Nutrition. Naked Nutrition provides you with pure protein powders and supplements to help you meet your nutrition and fitness goals. Naked Nutrition is completely transparent about their ingredients. That way you know exactly what is going into your body. No additives mean your body gets more of what it needs, and I suggest checking out all the amazing products on their website. Right now, you can get 10% off your first purchase at nakednutrition.com by using the code POD. That's 10% off using the code POD for first-time customers. Take your nutrition to the next level with Naked Nutrition. Now, Brett, it's on to the football part. We have college and NFL football going on Monday and Tuesday night. What do you think about this Tuesday night treat we're getting again in the NFL with the Baltimore Ravens and Pittsburgh Steelers getting pushed back? First they were a Thursday game, then they were a Sunday game. Now they're a Tuesday game because players keep testing positive for the coronavirus.
It's I guess I'm confused why the Broncos didn't get pushed back and the Ravens did, but
I think it's
um
just sheer numbers of the amount of the roster that the Ravens had ineligible to play compared to, I think it was mainly just the wide receiver room for Denver, or
the
quarterback room for
quarterbacks.
Denver.
Yeah.
Sorry, I said wide receiver room because Jerry Jeudy said he wanted to play quarterback, and instead they went with Kendall Hilton, who is a wide receiver that played quarterback. So a little bit confusing and a little bit of an overlap there. But yeah, the Ravens have like 18 or 19 players out, so that's probably part of it compared to just the quarterback room of Denver. But yeah, it definitely did raise some eyebrows. I agree.
Yeah, it just seemed like wouldn't you want to make sure everyone else's test kit like this all came down what felt like Saturday night, maybe it was late Saturday afternoon, and I just feel like you'd want to wait for more test results before you determine that this game was going on, but it went on. Uh it did not go on well for Denver, but you know what? I give him a lot of credit. That kid you mentioned his name, Hinton, showed up, and he didn't ask to be in starting NFL quarterback with no snaps ever with the team. So he went out there. He did his best. I'm sure it is very tough for anyone to go out there and complete a pass, and you know what? He did. So good for him.
And he had no prep time at all. No,
None,
no, no
none.
practice snaps, anything like that. hats off to him. I mean, for the rest of his life, he can say that he started an NFL game with zero preparation. I think the only player that may have gotten less preparation before their start was Justin Herbert this year, who found out at 15 minutes before when Tyrod Taylor got punctured in his lung.
And to be honest with you, Higgins, he was probably more prepped because at least he was in the meetings all week. Like this guy
Yeah,
was, in the wide receiver meetings.
absolutely. Let's get into these games, though. We start off with Monday night's game between the Seattle Seahawks and the Philadelphia Eagles, and I just see no way that the Eagles win this game. Even though they've gotten a little bit more healthy and they've gotten some of their pieces back, Carson Wentz has been terrible this year. If you look at how many interceptions he has, which is 18, and compare that with the amount of interceptions that teams have, he'd have the third most. Carson Wentz has not played well. I think Seattle's going to take advantage of that. And -6.5, I see Seattle winning by more than a touchdown. That offense is too strong, and Carson Wentz and that Eagles offense is just too messed up right now.
Yeah, I can't bet the Eagles either. I'm actually going to be on a little parlay here, Higgins, taking a page out of your book, going a little money line parlay here with Seattle because I didn't want to lay 6.5. Seattle's been pretty bad on the road this year, Higgins. I think we both can agree on that. So while I think it's a foregone conclusion they beat the Eagles, I wasn't willing to lay 6.5. And then this next game on Tuesday night, we spoke about it a little earlier. I'm just gonna take Pittsburgh because the Ravens have all these COVID issues, Higgins. So I don't need a spread in that one. I'll take both of them on the money line and just be happy with the -151 odds as opposed to what I get on the money lines here, which is like -500 with Pittsburgh and -260 with Seattle.
Yeah. I understand your concerns about Seattle on the road. I mean, their last three games on the road they lost, but that competition was a lot tougher. I mean, it was the Rams, it was Buffalo, it was Arizona, not necessarily the same caliber of the Eagles. So that doesn't worry me necessarily as much. Also, the Eagles are terrible against the spread this year. They're 3-7, whereas Seattle's 6-4. So that's a little bit more comforting for me there. But that's not the only spread that I'm going to be on with the NFL before this week wraps up. I'm also going to be on the Ravens plus 10.5, Brett. And it is concerning the amount of COVID cases that Baltimore has. Who's going to even be able to play for that team is still up in the air for a lot of those starting spots. But this is Baltimore versus Pittsburgh. This is a historically close rivalry that all time the scoring is a matter of just a few points between them. So plus 10.5, I'm going to take the plus 10.5 for Baltimore because you never know what defensive stand could happen. You never know if RG3 can step in and show us what he was like when he won the Heisman all those years ago at Baylor. I mean, 10.5 points just seems too much for this rivalry game for me, Brett. So I'm gonna be on the underdog, even with all the concerns surrounding them.
Well, I had this whole thing ready to go here, and then you said RG3, and now I'm concerned because in our pregame prep talk, you told me it was going to be Trace McSorley.
Well, I would like it to be. I would like it to be Trace McSorley, but I think it's. I think you were right when you corrected me saying RG3.
I
Trace
just.
McSorley, the TikTok NFL star, deserves the start. I think that the Pennsylvania's finest Penn State quarterback would play rather well in the Keystone State. That's just me, though. Just saying.
I just wanted the take out there. I just wanted everyone to be able to hear this guy is fully on the Trace McSorley bandwagon here.
Hey, if Trace gets the start, he gets the start, and it's not like he's not used to playing in Pennsylvania.
There you go. No, yeah, that weather would be very comforting to him.
Yes, it would. Now, it'll be interesting to see whether that game even happens, though. I mean, we saw that Mark Andrews tested positive for coronavirus today, according to Adam Schefter. So there could still be more positive cases that happen. This game could end up getting rescheduled or postponed or something. Who knows? But it's been strange. It's been strange.
Well, I guess lucky for us, Higgins, it's not the last game of the week. We've got
True.
one more surprise, 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. What is that? 7:30 a.m. your time?
Yeah, that's an early kickoff for West Coast people.
You can be brushing your teeth watching kickoff, getting ready for work there, Higgins, between Western Kentucky and Charlotte on Tuesday morning.
Yes, so this game was supposed to take place on Saturday, but apparently was pushed back to Tuesday. Last Monday, this was done. So even though this episode's coming out on a Monday, I want to specify last Monday this news came out that the game was being pushed to Tuesday because Charlotte did not have the players to properly be able to fill out a team or what have you, or have a practice because of coronavirus protocols. So the game got pushed to Tuesday. Well, that sounds concerning to me, the fact that Charlotte wasn't able to practice and all the stuff necessarily because of coronavirus protocols. So why would I bet on a 2-3 team that has all these obstacles to get there compared to the 4-6 team that has a 2-game winning streak going on against FIU and USM? I mean, I'm going to take Western Kentucky on the money line plus 100 because I think they're just going to be better prepared for this game.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm concerned for the Charlotte players and their health, but assuming everyone's okay and their families are okay and everyone made a healthy recovery and there's no long-term effects, what a treat. 10:30 a.m. Tuesday football, Higgins. Sign me up for this every week in Conference USA. Conference USA needs to own the 10:30 a.m. Tuesday Eastern time slot. That should
I'm
be their
about it.
goal.
I'm
Own
about it.
it. Own it. Breakfast football on Tuesday, then action at night, Higgins. That's the dream. But I'm with you 100%. Western Kentucky, for all the reasons you said, really related to they've been able to practice and they're 1.5 point dogs. Sure, I'll take them with the points and just be very happy with, if it's a close game, I can still be in it either way.
Charlotte's last game was also a 53-19 loss to Duke on Halloween. So they haven't played yet in November, and their last game was a shellacking against an ACC opponent. So that's not comforting for Charlotte fans either, I would say. So Western Kentucky, just all the signs kind of point to them to me.
Yeah, I guess like the questions, but it's for both teams. Like these have nothing to do with one team versus another. But you'd be curious how these teams are gonna react to playing on such an odd time slot.
Yeah, how do you prepare for that? I mean, like, so they're used to a noon kickoffs where they have to wake up at a certain time, have their food, get ready to go stretch out, do their walkthroughs, get get their pads on and all that stuff. How much further is all that bumped up with a 10:30 start? What time are these guys waking up to eat their breakfast and start preparing, do you think?
I mean, my guess is their normal practice time is probably in the afternoon too. So like their body is just not going to be adjusted for this 10:30 a.m. kick, but this is a weird year, Higgins, so I guess you're just happy to be playing, you're thankful to be playing. I don't know. The coaches will have their guys ready, right? Because it's the anytime, anywhere, any place mentality. So, um this is the full embodiment of it. 10:30 a.m. on a Tuesday. What a time slot for college football.
And if you're not ready at 10:30 a.m. on Tuesday, well, you're going to wake up and be ready pretty quickly. That first hit's going to wake you up, I guarantee it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess for all these kids, it's better than geology class.
Well, before we get out of here, Brett, let's go over a Levy lock and pick of the pod, even though both of ours lost last week. So it might be smarter for some people to fade us with
Yeah.
our Levy locks and pick the pods after Both of us going offers 2 weeks in a row, 2 episodes in a row, is it?
Yeah, I guess we'll call it the Levy fade, the Higgins fade.
Well, I said it during our college basketball picks. St. John's versus Boston College. I'm taking Boston College on the money line here in what I see as a toss-up game with an even money line odds. Boston College is the slight favorite on the spread, but BC has harder opponents. They played Villanova and Rhode Island compared to St. John's playing St. Peter's and LaSalle. So I'm just going off of quality opponents here, going off of how these teams have overall played so far this season. Boston College is going to win this one.
All right, there you go. And I'm going to take Wyoming at home. It's tough to play in Laramie. It's a place of altitude. Wyoming's a good team. And I also like this storyline, Higgins. Wyoming's got a freshman, Marcus Williams, from Texas. And I'm guessing if he left the state of Texas to go play at Wyoming, some schools in Texas may have missed out on this kid.
Yeah, so might be a little bit of a grudge there, you think?
Yeah, just a fun storyline to follow. I'm not saying that's the difference maker, but a little added sprinkle there. A little added
Yeah.
sprinkle.
And like you said earlier in the show, it's tough to get up to Laramie.
It is. It's just a hard place to play, and early in the season, at altitude, you're gonna be winded. You just are, and advantage Wyoming because they've been practicing in that altitude all off season.
And Texas boys are going to be cold up in Wyoming in late November, no doubt about that.
Another fair point. Also, they will want to get in and out.
Well, we may have some other picks going given out before our next episode. Tuesday and Wednesday night college basketball, absolutely. Make sure to follow us on social media for some of those picks at NBB Pod on Twitter, at Next Best Bet on Instagram, and the Next Best Bet Facebook page and YouTube channels. This has been episode 97 of the Next Best Bet. For Brett, I'm Jake. We'll talk to you again on Thursday.